One Valley Groundwater Agency just made what its own board calls probably its most important hire yet, and, in the same breath, warned landowners that if new funding fails, the state of California could take the wheel. You're listening to the Sigma Weekly, your 10-minute briefing on everything happening in California groundwater. Brought to you by water1.ai. I'm your AI host. Let's get into it. Plus, a recharge experiment that's nothing more than a 50-foot hole packed with rock. It soaked water into the ground in a week, where a plain pond took a month. We'll get to that. First up, South Fork Kings GSA. That's a groundwater sustainability agency, the local body charged with bringing its basin into balance, down in the Tulare Lake subbasin. The board there did two big things this week, and together they tell you exactly where this agency thinks the stakes are. First, it unanimously hired the firm EKI Environment and Water to independently review the subbasin's groundwater model, the model that will ultimately decide sustainable yield and allocations. Board members and the grower committee called it probably the most important hire the GSA is making, and here's why. The current model is believed to undercount the agency's water bank, and EKI's principal helped develop the original modeling software this all runs on. In other words, South Fork Kings just hired its own watchdog to make sure the math treats its growers fairly. Second, the board contracted Provost and Pritchard to run a brand new Prop 218 funding process because the current assessment, $9.80 an acre, is expiring, and it doesn't come close to covering what implementation actually costs. Board members were candid that some landowners have signaled opposition, but they were just as candid about the alternative. Their warning is that if funding fails, the State Water Resources Control Board could step in and take over. And they pointed straight at the Tule subbasin example we've been tracking, where state staff have discussed pumping fees of around $35 an acre-foot, plus annual well charges. One more wrinkle. The new measure needs to hit the county tax roll deadline in early August, or collections revert to slower manual billing. Nobody on that board wants to raise fees. They just think a locally run plan beats a state-run one, and they're moving fast to keep it that way. Next up, Tulare, where the city's drinking water wells and the farm economy around them are now officially each other's problem. Tulare Irrigation District's Urban Strategic Plan revealed that the city of Tulare's wells are carving a growing cone of depression in the lower aquifer, a localized drawdown that keeps getting worse whether the year is wet or dry. And here's the part that raises the stakes. If declining levels ever force the city out of the lower aquifer and into the shallower one, that upper zone is contaminated, and the city's treatment facilities aren't equipped to handle it. So the district and the city are building a joint playbook. Near-term ideas include a wastewater exchange, potential injection wells, and, this is the one growers should hear, a paid fallow program where the city would compensate growers on the city's edge to stop pumping and leave fields unirrigated, with the district redirecting that surface water for recharge near the city. The district expects heavy discussions with the city over the next 12 months. If you farm on the Tulare city fringe, this could mean both operational changes and a new financial opportunity, worth watching closely. Now, this one's about patience under pressure. Arvin-Edison Water Storage District's board held off on approving its proposed $1.3 million Phase 2 Golden Mussel treatment. Here's the context. The contract structure has shifted from the emergency arrangement the district used back in March, and directors want the updated liability and insurance terms fully worked through before they commit. So staff has a homework list. Review the district's own insurance options, survey what contract terms other water districts are accepting, and physically inspect the system's tanks to see where Mussel presence stands today. A special meeting in August was discussed to revisit the decision, and a September treatment start is still the target. Staff noted mobilization only takes about 2 weeks of lead time, so the window is real. The board isn't walking away from treatment. It's making sure the coverage questions are settled before signing. The one caution staff offered: if things slip much past that window, a more aggressive and more expensive treatment could be needed later. And rounding out the must-knows, following up on last week's coverage of pending pumping caps in the Tule subbasin. Lower Tule River Irrigation District put hard numbers on why the pressure keeps building. 13 of its subsidence management zones have now exceeded half of the sinking allowed through 2040, more than double the 6 zones from just a year ago. Staff says daily monitoring shows seasonal drops in the lower aquifer that line up directly with subsidence events, and that's accelerating work on a possible tiered allocation framework that would treat upper aquifer and lower aquifer pumping differently. Recommendations are expected by this fall. On the money side, the board unanimously approved an assessment of $165 an acre for the coming year, a roughly 18% increase, though below the maximum staff had recommended, with the board weighing grower costs against the need to fund recharge credits and compliance work. And looming over all of it, the State Water Board's interim plan for the subbasin, which could be adopted by mid-2027 and impose state-level pumping restrictions by 2028. That closed-door sit-down between state staff and Tule subbasin agencies we previewed last week did happen this past Thursday. Early reports say the state walked through potential interim actions, and the details are still filtering out to local boards. We'll keep tracking it. That's your must-knows. Now, trends in the valley. First trend. Unpaid groundwater bills are landing on property tax rolls. Madera County GSA recommended enrolling nearly $900,000 in unpaid extraction penalties as special assessments on the secured tax roll. And older penalties that were already on the roll and still went unpaid will get a notice of levy, meaning a line attaches to the property. East Turlock GSA sent non-payment notices to 71 accounts and is preparing its own tax roll resolution. And Greater Kauai GSA, still carrying about $7 million in unpaid dashboard invoices, down from $9 million, is exploring shifting future collections to the county tax rolls as well, following its neighbor East Kauai's lead. The pattern is unmistakable. These agencies don't enjoy playing bill collector, but they can't fund sustainability plans on IOUs, so the county assessor is becoming the collections department. Second trend. Continuing the well registration push we've been tracking in recent weeks. The deadlines are tightening, and non-compliance is starting to carry real costs. Mid-Kauai GSA sits at just 358 wells registered out of a target of roughly 1,300, with an October 31st deadline. Staff acknowledged the pace is slow and says a revised strategy comes to the board within the month. And here's why it matters beyond paperwork. Registration data feeds the groundwater model that sets allocations, and without it, the agency may be forced to go more conservative, meaning stricter numbers for everyone. Greater Kauai says the grace period is ending. Accounts without registered wells will be locked out of water transfers and dashboard programs. In the Delta-Mendota subbasin, well registration templates go out to agencies this month ahead of the November 30th data deadline we covered 2 weeks ago. And Fresno Irrigation District reported that North Kings GSA enforcement, with fines and penalties, is expected in August or September. If you haven't registered your wells, the message from every corner of the valley is the same. The window for free passes is closing. Third trend. Beyond Arvin-Edison's paused decision and continuing the golden mussel coverage from recent weeks, the Friant System's mussel bill is coming into focus. Tulare Irrigation District relayed discussion of a roughly $3.5 million chemical treatment program planned for the upcoming canal dewatering period, aimed at a full kill and resetting the baseline. And separately, Lower Tule reported that the Friant Water Authority's draft operations and maintenance budget is up roughly $3 million to about $17 million, driven by mussel remediation and studies, with canal operations already being modified to keep the mussels from spreading further down the system. Meanwhile, over in Chowchilla Water District, where no mussels have been confirmed at all, the board heard a water treatment company's pitch to start monitoring anyway. The presenter's case. A single mussel can produce up to 1 million offspring per cycle, survive out of water for around 2 months, and in his words, this is a matter of when, not if. Chowchilla referred the idea to its canal manager. Whether you're treating, budgeting, or just watching, The Mussel era on the Friant system has a price tag now. Last trend, and it's a fun one. Recharge is getting creative. Building on last week's recharge coverage, Chowchilla Water District reported that 50-foot deep recharge holes backfilled with rock had water percolating within a week at the same site where a plain pond sat on its water for a month. That's the experiment we teased at the top, and it's a cheap trick with big implications for moving floodwater underground fast. Fresno Irrigation District completed the 6-acre Biola Community Recharge Basin. Biola is expected to become the first fully sustainable, severely disadvantaged community in a critically overdrafted basin, with a ribbon cutting at the end of July. And construction on the much larger Warner Basin, over 300 acres, is expected to start this fall. And East Turlock rolled out registration guidelines for recharge facilities, the key detail being that facilities must be registered before recharge credits can be earned. So if you're recharging on your own ground there, get the paperwork in before the water goes in. One last note before we go. Every district we covered today takes public comment, and the full recaps at water1.ai include meeting dates and contact information for each one, if you want to get involved or need a hand navigating any of this. That's your Sigma Weekly. If you want the full details on every board meeting we covered, head to water1.ai. You can read the complete recaps, and if you want to dig deeper, try Chat GSA. Just ask it anything about your district, and it'll pull up the answers from the latest meetings. I'm your AI host. Stay informed, and I'll see you next week.